2 years have gone by since the story of Jaime Lannister came to an end in Game of Thrones, and with it, I wanted to head back and finally explore the essence of his character arc and how he ended up dying how he always wanted, in the arms of the woman he loves. Many fans have been lashing out about how all Jaime's character development went to the trash once he left Winterfell for Cersei, and felt his redemptive arc was cheated from a happy ending. Nevertheless, Jaime's story is one of failure, one that shows how real and regressive addictions can be for anyone. For him, the toxic love he feels for Cersei has become an addiction that fuels his most hateful actions, and the one that deprived him of his happy ending. In this article, I want to explain how Jaime Lannister wasn't as poorly written as many think. Please bear with me and hear me out. If you still don't agree by the end, then drop a comment below and let me know your points. I would love to hear the other end of the argument. I for once still enjoy Game of Thrones and still consider it as one of the best series ever, even though its last season made some questionable choices. I don't argue much about the outcomes. Many of the ending choices felt logical and were most likely dictated by George R.R. Martin. My issue comes with the road that the writers chose for many of those plot points. Many choices lacked substance, logic, or even setups.
Dany kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet. Dany kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
Dany kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
He betrayed me.
They went for subversion for the sake of subversion, and that ain't good writing. But anyways, let's get back to the point of this video essay. The beauty of Game of Thrones is how it defines a uniquely ambiguous moral code that makes the audience hate and then love some characters, or vice versa. Only a well-written character arc can possibly achieve it. Jaime Lannister is no exception, and the fact that his arc wasn't completed doesn't mean it was poorly executed. It only explores what it means to fail, and how sometimes people in real life aren't able to overcome their past demons. Jaime Lannister is a man that lives in a frequent battle for his identity, always struggling to choose between two personalities. Throughout his life, he fights two sides of the same coin: the Kingslayer persona, fueled by Cersei and his father, and his honorable side, which follows a personal quest for transcendence. Tywin and Cersei impose the Lannister identity in Jaime. This Kingslayer persona characterizes itself for being a strong, proud, and entitled personality with a mentality that every situation they are in will always turn out how they expect them to be, either by means of their money, connections, or manipulations.
Let us go. My father will pay you whatever you want.
You wait till my father hears about this.
Oh, my father will hear about this! Wait until my father hears that Dumbledore's got this oath teaching classes.
It also depicts a careless and self-centered person. For starting the show embracing his Kingslayer persona, Jaime Lannister was a character that was hated at the beginning of the series. He throws Bran out of a window, attacks Ned Stark on the streets, and completely shows a smug personality as if he's above everyone else. Framing him directly as an antagonist for the Starks did not help him gain the audience's hearts. However, all this was by design, in order to add complexity to the hidden themes about ambiguous morality of the show, how there are light and darkness inside everyone. Throughout the first two seasons, the honorable side of Jaime is subtly hinted at. First and foremost, he is bothered by the nickname Kingslayer and the disdain it carries about his honor.
There it is. That's the look. Seen it for 17 years and face after face. You all despise me. Kingslayer. Oathbreaker. Man without honor.
He cringes when he hears it, and automatically verbally attacks the person that said it with sarcasm and insults. Or if he is not in a position of superiority where he can do this, his face expresses hints of disgust and seriousness unique to the situation. Another example of the hints about his lighter side at the beginning of the story reveals itself when he is shown to be completely disturbed when retelling to King Robert about how he killed the Mad King, as the king kept on commanding to burn them all.
Burn them all!
Lastly, there is also a key moment that hints at how there is a side of him that doesn't match the Kingslayer persona. This comes to the surface when he did not finish off Ned Stark after one of his men puts a spear through Ned's knee, creating an unfair advantage for Jaime. As we as an audience find out later in the series, this is something that even the honorable Ned Stark didn't do when facing Sir Arthur Dayne. These hints from his honorable personality did not matter until he faced an inciting event that forced him to open up his eyes and start the redemption arc he was seeking since he was named Kingslayer. The catalyst of this redemption arc is Brienne, who is assigned by Catelyn Stark the task to safely return Jaime to King's Landing in order to trade him for her daughters. With Brienne, Jaime starts learning the true meaning of honor and righteousness from a perspective he had never heard from. They create a bond that started feeding Jaime's honorable side and make him re-evaluate his actions. To understand Jaime Lannister's inner struggle for defining his identity, we need to focus on two defining moments in his life. The first moment was when he murdered the king he swore to protect, gaining the nickname of Kingslayer. This transforms Jaime, intensifying his arrogant and toxic side, making him embrace the side of him that his family, but not Tyrion, instilled in him. What's worse for Jaime is that people don't know the complete truth behind what really happened that night, which we come to know about it when he confesses this story to Brienne in the top. We learn that Jaime broke his vows and committed regicide not because he intended to secure the throne for his family, as most people in Westeros thought, but because he wouldn't stand and watch as his king burned his own innocent subjects.
Burn them all, he said. Burn them in their homes, burn them in their beds. Tell me if your precious Randy commanded you to kill your own father and stand by while thousands of men, women, and children burned alive, would you have done it? Would you have kept your oath then?
The confession only comes up because the second defining moment on Jaime's life happened just previously: the loss of his sword hand in an attempt to save Brienne from getting raped. His sword hand symbolized the tool that executed his worst impulses, the same impulses he had in order to satisfy Cersei. The loss of his hand was important because it freed Jaime into exploring both of his conflicting personalities again. After this event, Jaime started his slow road for redemption by following Brienne's example. He lost the thing that enabled him to do the only thing he was good at, fighting. So he became a broken man that slowly started to repair himself from his previous sins. Since Season 3, Jaime Lannister was a changed person, one that chooses more wisely when he is protecting Cersei's interest and doesn't risk so much of himself as previous version of himself did. Jaime actually does improve as a person by admiring Brienne. He honors promises that the old Jaime wouldn't have to abide by, even if it meant to help the enemy or leave Cersei to fight for the living. But with his return to King's Landing, Jaime's inner struggle now has champions for each personality: Cersei for the Lannister side, and Brienne for the honorable one. There are two key phrases that define the essence of what Jaime is. One is said by himself,
The things I do for love.
and the other by Maester Aemon.
Love is the death of duty.
Jaime is a man who will do anything to save the honor of a loved one, even if it means that his actions will send him on a path of emotional distress. Jaime's dual personalities are a constant struggle of love versus duty, in which more often than not, he chooses love. Contrary to what the yin to his yang, Jon Snow, chooses almost every time. In fact, Jon's duality with Jaime is an interesting analysis that demands a whole new article just by itself, which will be soon posted by us, together with obviously a video essay. Setting aside what he does for the people he loves, like Brienne of Tyrion, towards whom he acts selflessly without a shred of any regressive behavior, the main driver for most of his dishonorable actions in his life is his addictive love for Cersei. And yes, you can become addicted to a person. Love addiction is a real thing in our world, and develops the same patterns that any other addiction causes on its subjects. Jaime endured a lifelong journey of manipulation from Cersei. Her behavior is emotionally damaging to Jaime, feeding toxicity into the dynamic where she does not actually feel the same unconditional and devotional love that he feels for her. Cersei is self-centered, and she continuously dominates Jaime's actions whenever she can. This embodies the core behaviors of a toxic relationship, where one partner needs to be in complete control and have all the power in a relationship. At one point, she even belittles Jaime for losing his hand and completely blames him for being captured at war and being absent from her for more than a year.
You come back after all this time with no apologies in one hand and expect everything to be the same.
What do you want me to apologize for?
For leaving me.
You think I wanted to be taken prisoner?
Don't know what you wanted, you weren't here. You left me.
But why does Jaime keep up with this? Well, one reason why Jaime puts up with this is rooted inside his own insecurities, something that has stemmed from his struggle for identifying a defining personality. But above all, as stated by Tyrion, and most importantly, not denied by Jaime, Jaime has known all along that Cersei is a mad person with a tyrannical approach to life, but he just can't let go. Cersei is the defining aspect of his life. Fighting his addiction to Cersei serves as an antithesis for his own transcendent purpose. Her mere presence serves as a drug that blinds Jaime Lannister's honorable morale, making him do stupid and horrible things for love.
I pushed a boy out a tower window, crippled him for life. For Cersei. I strangled my cousin with my own hands, just to get back to Cersei. I would have murdered every man, woman, and child in Riverrun for Cersei.
But improvement during an addiction doesn't mean that one isn't prone to relapse. Hope in the relationship can be blinding, and a new pregnancy can be a strong motivator for this cause. Jaime Lannister leaves Brienne not because he does not love her, but because he loves Cersei and his child more. There is something about life that not every writer has the guts to explore, that not everyone has a chance to fully redeem themselves and move from the past that haunts them, that not everyone is successful to become the person they wanted to be. It's cold and it's cruel and very straightforward, but that's real life. Life is filled with choices and possibilities, and Game of Thrones explores the possibility in which the character relapses, not because it is pessimist, but because it wants to show a complex story with realistic outcomes at the expense of some of its characters. Game of Thrones explores stories of perseverance, personal growth, and success, in which characters, more often than not, suffer the real consequences for their actions. But at the end of the day, they grow stronger and above their struggles. But the fact is, Game of Thrones also explores the other side of the coin. It also explores stories surrounded by tragedy. Given by the fact that it explores numerous main characters, the story needs to balance out the positive and bittersweet endings that some characters get, with the tragedies in which characters end up failing or becoming corrupted. Sadly, Jaime was a victim of being part of the pool of characters that fail. When Jaime Lannister hears that the attack on Cersei is imminent, he suffers a relapse and retakes the Kingslayer persona.
She's hateful. And so am I.
He knows he needs to act like that in order to fight Brienne's attempt to make him stay with her in Winterfell. Jaime uses his cruelness and carelessness from the Kingslayer persona to hide how conflicted he really is in situations as serious and tough like this one. You can really see in his eyes that this decision hurts him. He also uses this persona afterwards in his conversation with Tyrion when he is imprisoned in Daenerys' camp. He uses the Kingslayer persona to briefly show disinterest from innocent people being possibly killed to justify himself about the relapse.
And for every one of the million people in that city, innocent or otherwise.
To be honest, I never really cared much for them. Innocent or otherwise.
But Tyrion and the audience know to its core that this disinterest isn't real, since the whole reason he became the Kingslayer was because he sacrificed his honor for saving everybody else. At least one character from the whole lot died how he stated he wanted to die.
The arms of the woman I love.
This adds some levity to his ending, Jaime was actually able to find short-term happiness in his addiction at the cost of his redemption. But this was the same type of choice that Jaime continuously made his whole life, where he sacrifices his honor, reputation, mental state, and sometimes even his life to try and save others from losing the same. He went on to try and save Cersei and give her the better life she deserved, even though he knows he doesn't. All for love. The show portrays in Jaime a feeling that there is nothing he can do to pay for his sins, that his hateful Kingslayer persona doesn't deserve the happy ending fans, and myself included, wanted for him, and thus breaking all of our hearts. In his moments of reflection by Brienne's bed, he feels corrupted beyond repair, feeling empty. It is in these emotional and mental delicate situations that the withdrawal symptoms from leaving Cersei can emerge and overcome his thoughts with ease. The urge to come back to Cersei simply took him over, making him suffer the eventual relapse. Even though I personally didn't feel satisfied with how Cersei was killed, and I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted her to die in a horrible way. But it allowed Jaime the opportunity of a death that felt earned, because Jaime's motives were always consistent actions towards the toxic love of his life. Jaime Lannister's death with Cersei was poetic. Born together, died together. In fact, before leaving Winterfell, Brienne told him what he always knew, that returning for King's Landing could only mean certain death for him. But he chose it anyway, because that is the type of decisions that he makes when a loved one is in trouble. Illogical decisions at the expense of himself. Jaime Lannister is a tragic champion of love. He chooses to die in his toxic relationship with Cersei rather than having a free future. He chose the relationship that has been a part of him since the moment he was born. This is especially why the decision to return was aligned to what his character actually would have done, and this is why Jaime's redemption arc is one about failure. It is a tragedy, one where his redemption was so close to be achieved, but was ultimately thrashed, despite all the effort and amends he did for it. His arc's goal was just within arm's reach with Brienne in Winterfell.
Love is more powerful than reason. We all know that. Look at my brother.
Well, that's it. But on an ending note, I just wanted to add that one of Jaime's goals for Transcendence was to fulfill his pages of the Kingsguard's book with great deeds that reflected his honorable side. His arc in fact did achieve something, and now Jaime can be remembered inside the world of Game of Thrones for the things he selflessly did for the greater good. In a way, his arc to becoming an honorable man towards life paid off, and all thanks to Brienne, who was the only person who truly knew who Jaime Lannister actually was. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Also, be sure to check out our social media, our site, and the other videos in our channel.